Welcome back to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. The archives and load up some other talks that I've got of these Bob Earll cassettes. I've had them sitting on a hard drive for some time now. I've decided to share them with you all. Let me know what you think. Some people loved Bob. Some people hated Bob. Bob was Bob, but he talked all over the world. I mean, he's from Los Angeles, Beverly Hills area, and did other things. I think he was a writer. Just click down below, like or subscribe, or both, like and subscribe. Just click down below, like and subscribe on my channel. It helps me out. Just a little click for you, doesn't cost you anything, and I'm bringing you some Bob Earll. And have a good day if you want to.
How y'all doing this evening? My name is Stephen Burnett, and I am an alcoholic. And I've been living in the grace since March 30th, 1981, and for that I'm extremely grateful. You'll have to excuse the way I'm dressed. What can I say? I found out 30 seconds ago that I was going to get to introduce Bob, and quite a privilege for me. When I came into the program in 1981, I was about 2 months sober, and I heard one of Bob's tapes. And it changed the way and the direction of my entire program. And I was just telling Bob that he's one of my mentors. And he's somebody who, you know, through his talking and listening, has been able to guide me in a way that I guess God uses Bob in ways that he's not aware of. And a most wonderful and kind, loving man, Bobby.
Well, I am Bob Earll. I am a drug addict and an alcoholic. I see convention committees still give the young people the premier time slots. Yeah, it used to be 8 o'clock Sunday morning. What the hell, you know. Or 3 Friday afternoon, right? You know, so we're doing better. I want you to know that 50 years old to be asked to speak at the young people's meeting at a convention is so goddamn flattering. I can't stand it. I'm like, that's an honor. I consider it a tremendous honor, and I'm most grateful, and I really do. Of course, I'm one of the heretics that think it's the young people who are going to change this thing and get it going. So anyhow, I was thinking in my room, I was getting dressed, and I was putting on these ribbons, you know, and I looked at these ribbons, I was happy, joyous, and free, and I thought, wow, you know, on December 30th, 1935, I was born that way. I mean, I was born happy, joyous, and free. That's exactly what God intended me to be, was happy, joyous, and free. And I think I maintained that state till I was about 18 months and started to walk. And then once I began to walk, it seemed that I was out of the realm of the capacity of my parents to cope. You know, once I became a human being and was up and moving in my own directions. And it was like, then the trouble started. And it seems like from that point on, until I was 26 years old, it was all destruction. You know, and most of the destruction was, whether it was parental destruction, you know, foisted on me, or whether it was my own destruction foisted on me as I got bigger, it was all designed to do one thing: stop me from feeling. That's what it was designed to do. And it was also designed to keep me from expressing those feelings. If anybody said to me, other than the physical addiction to alcohol, Bob, what do you think alcoholism is? I'd say stuffed feelings. And I'm convinced of that because have you ever noticed in a meeting when somebody starts to express feelings, we all want to fix them right away? Uh-oh, John's gone over the goddamn edge. He's sitting down there at the end of the table sobbing, you know. Instead of saying, well, gee, it looks like John got in touch with something. Isn't that great? You know, he'll probably work through it soon, you know. And instead, they want to scoop you in a net, man, and whew, out the door. Oh, let's go out in the parking lot and talk. You don't look good, you know. You seem awfully strained. What is that you're going through? That's feelings. We don't allow those here. So at 26 years of age, in August whatever the hell it was, 62, I rolled in the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous and I sat down on my first meeting. And it seems like since then, it's been a process of trying to get back to what I was when I was originally born, which is happy, joyous, and free. And that AA has been the launching pad, that it is the starting point. It is where it begins, see? And I'm like so many people who come to AA, I had the idea that this is the end here. I thought it was over here. I was convinced of that. My mind told me that. I sat in my first AA meeting. I weighed 135 pounds. I'd been living outdoors for months. I had only the clothes I had on my back. I looked at these goddamn people in this meeting, and my mind said, well, this is it. The end of the road. You really sunk to the bottom this time. Fun is over. So I became convinced that Alcoholics Anonymous is where you stayed when you could no longer take drugs or drink alcohol and you weren't lucky enough to be dead. And that the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and the meetings and the fellowship were designed solely to make me as comfortable as possible till I died. I had no idea that they were designed to open the door to life for me. No idea at all. In fact, it was an idea that was inconceivable to me. So in the beginning, what I did is, of course, I went out like everybody else and got sponsors, and being a good adult child of alcoholics, I picked those that reminded me of Dad. So I got, treated like dog manure from the gate, Sit down, you blithering idiot, and shut your goddamn mouth. Oh, okay, yeah, shit, that's familiar. I remember that, And I'm not saying that's bad. Don't misinterpret me. I'm misinterpreted so much. Everybody thinks I'm a heretic trying to destroy AA, which is interesting when all you do is talk about health, nutrition, therapy, getting better, and somehow that's viewed as destruction.
God, what a great guy. He was so funny.
It's okay with me if you got to do it that way. Well, you'll come around some goddamn day, or or I'll go to the funeral. Anyhow, oh God, I thought it was going to be better than that. I really was. Anyhow, it's okay if you have sponsorship you're familiar with and comfortable with, because I think I have known what to do if I had had a sponsor who had been kind and gentle and loving and peaceful and quiet and supportive. If I'd had a sponsor who told me that I was marvelous and beautiful and special, and that I deserved to be alive, and that I was going to begin a new way of life, and that God was going to hold me lovingly in his arms from this point on, not that he hadn't already, I probably would have said, yeah, right, and looked to see who he was talking to, behind me, knowing that none of it had anything to do with me. So I bopped along for a while with my sponsorship, doing what I was told to do, sitting where I was told to sit, putting my hand up when I was told to put it up, doing whatever I was told to do, hating every minute of it, and not wanting what AA had to offer. That's the one line I really, that line about, boy, if you want what we have, I just have never met anybody new, with the exception of a couple of people who have been able to conceive of what it is we have here. I mean, new people aren't really that smart. They're not that aware, they're not terribly open-minded, and, truth, honesty, love, spirituality have not been the, bywords of their vocabulary for the last few years. So you say, if you want what we have, and they give you this blank, you see this haze form over their eyes. I'm one of those that, I got here because of the flamethrower behind me, and I stayed here because of the flamethrower behind me. It had nothing to do with what was ahead of me. It had nothing to do with the promises. It had only to do that I could not go back to what I had. That's the only reason I stayed. I had been beaten, whipped, destroyed. I wasn't here because I wanted to be here. The drugs and the alcohol had finished me. Oh yeah, and I'm one of those that thinks all this bullshit about addicts and alcoholics and eaters and gamblers and the separation is the most funniest goddamn thing I've ever heard in my life, right? Of all the people on the face of the earth that need each other, it's we who are addicted personalities, and yet we spend all our time saying, no, I'm not one of them. I don't want them at our meeting, You can't talk at our meeting. Give it a rest, guys. Jesus Christ. We almost died trying to be unique. Almost died, and many of us have, defending our right to be unique. And if there was ever a time we should embrace each other, regardless of the compulsion and the obsession, it's here. You know, it's here. Anyhow, back to being newly sober and bopping through AA meetings with a flamethrower roaring at my rear end. After a while, I began to think, probably about 3 months into my sobriety. Hello, John. How are you? This is a sweet, beautiful man. Go hear him. If you don't laugh, you have no sense of humor. Anyhow, about 3 months I began to think. Serious trouble to recovery. Thinking is detrimental to recovery. Highly detrimental to recovery, and it's particularly detrimental to your own personal life. Because, I mean, if you want to take a minute, think of the last time you gave yourself a loving, supportive, encouraging thought. When you woke up and your mind said to you, God, you're one of the nicest people on the face of the earth. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning, and we are going to have probably the happiest, joyous day of our lives. Sure. I'm an alcoholic. I know what it says when it wakes you up. We didn't get enough sleep. You need more sleep. But if you don't go to work, you're going to lose your job, so go to work. But as tired as you are, you're going to screw up, so you're going to lose your job anyway. Now you lost your job, you got enough money for about 6 weeks. So in 6 weeks, you're broke. What are you going to do about that? Oh, yeah, besides that, that bump just below your knee is bone cancer. You probably got 6 months. How are you going to handle that? You going to go to meetings and talk about it, or stay home and just rot to death and be chicken? So here I am, happy, joyous, and free, right? 5 seconds into the day. Man, I don't know about you, I can lay in bed in the morning so overwhelmed that I break into a sweat. And I maybe have a total of 4 things to do that day. But the mind begins with, well, you can't do it, you're incompetent, you'll never get it done, you'll never survive, this is it, what are you going to do, which thing are you going to cancel? Cancel them, you can't go do that one. But if you cancel them, they're going to be really mad, and you can't stand having anybody mad at you, so I don't know how the hell you're going to do about any of this. You probably just ought to stay in bed and forget the whole goddamn day. I don't know what we're going to do. You know. I find that the best solution to that is get moving. See? I have to move against my mind. It doesn't want to go. I take it most places unwillingly. And it's petrified of new experiences. It would rather stay home and think. Its favorite pastime in the whole world is to sit home and think. It loves to come up with the solutions to problems. Well, we have a problem. I think we need to sit home and work up the solution. This relationship is no good. It's going over the falls. How do you suppose we should handle this? And I'll be quiet because I have no idea, and the mind will say, I think she should die. So once the mind whips into gear in recovery, you're probably in for a lot more of a roller coaster ride than you had originally intended when you put the plug in the jug. Sponsors, sensing that you're now under a lot of tension in sobriety, seeing that you're thinking, will then begin to give you people to sponsor who have less time than you have. You may have 90 days, they'll give you somebody with 1 day, 2 days. They usually try and match people as carefully as they can, so if you're a lunatic, they give you the lunatics. I was a lunatic, they gave me the lunatics. So that kept me busy for a year. Then at the end of the year, then they give you panels in institutions if you've come from institutions, because they want you again to be where you're comfortable. Where you can carry the best message. Unfortunately, in between year 2 and year 3, I started to have a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble, because I began to get very uncomfortable in sobriety. But I now had another problem. Between day 1 and year 2, I had created what I call my AA personality. Okay? It had nothing to do with reality. Okay? I sort of put it on in the parking lot outside the meeting. This personality was a culmination of things. It was a piece of this speaker and this article and this book and this magazine and this counselor, this, that, and this and that, and I put together a person. I formed a person. A friend of mine says we create statues, and then we become maintenance men and janitors for the statue with no life of our own while we're trying to clean the bird shit off the statue, right? Self-inflicted bird shit, I might add. Remember, everybody's responsible. Nobody is to blame. Yes, I know. That's one that always gets, the warm hearts of people. but another part of this AA personality, if somebody who worked with me saw me at an AA meeting, they would not have known me. Conversely, if somebody who knew me in AA had worked with me, they wouldn't have known me. Okay? I mean, they would not have known me because the personalities were that different. And another real serious part of the AA personality that I created from the ones that I observed was that AA personalities are always fine. No matter what's going on, they're fine. You walk up to a guy at a meeting and say, "Hi, George, how are you?" George says, "I'm fine, thanks." George walks away, another guy comes up and says, "Did you hear about George?" "No, what about George?" "Oh, well, geez, his wife divorced him, he had his car repossessed, and he lost his job." I thought, oh, well, George is fine. So I'd walk in these meetings and people would say, "Hi, Bob, how are you?" I said, "I'm fine." Where the honest thing for me to do would have been drop to my knees, grab them around the ankles, and begin to sob uncontrollably on their shoes. Right? But I couldn't do that because I was a good AA, so I was always fine. And more importantly, if I did that, I would divulge my secret. And my secret was this. Down deep inside of me, I knew that something was wrong with me. And I knew that no matter what situation, I wasn't enough. Didn't matter. It doesn't matter today whether I'm speaking at a Skid Row meeting in a mission, in AA, or whether I'm in an executive level meeting at a motion picture studio. I'm not enough. Something's wrong with me and I'm not enough. Now that creates a lot of problems in recovery, or it created a lot of problems in recovery for me. One of the reasons it created a lot of problems in recovery for me is our whole program is spiritual in nature. I'm convinced the program was designed by God, presented by God, and just laid out through men. That it is a spiritual program, every aspect of it. It is a gift from God to wounded children. That's all it is. It's just a gift. And in order to be spiritual, from everything I have learned, from all the metaphysical churches I've been to and all the prophets and mystics and people I have spent time with and walked with, I have learned there is one absolute, critical, essential ingredient in living a spiritual life, and that is the capacity to be spontaneous. And I have learned that if I think something's wrong with me and I'm not enough, I can't be spontaneous. Because I'm afraid to go places I haven't been. Because I'm afraid you're going to make me look silly, or you're going to embarrass me, or I know I'm going to fail, so I'm not going to go, and I'm not going to try, and I'm going to hang on. They say, show an alcoholic a rut, and they'll move in and furnish it. I've also heard the only difference between a rut and a grave is the dimensions. I'm just full of fun stuff. If I send you out of here really uncomfortable and mad, I've done, in essence, what I came to do. I'd like to do it some other way. I really would. I mean, I'd love to have some other goddamn message to share, but unfortunately, all I got is my experience in sobriety, and I know it's going to turn some things inside of some of you. But I am so grateful that people took the time to turn things inside of me, because it changed my life. So anyhow, here I am. I'm a couple years sober. I'm going absolutely nuts. I'm sitting in meetings, my mind is saying to me, well, gave up to drugs and alcohol, you're crazier than you ever been any time in your life. You spent every waking moment thinking of suicide. You never thought of suicide once when you were drinking and using. You had to begin to work the 12 steps of AA before you wanted to blow your brains out. It was. So I'd wake up in the morning. Suicide was the only solution I could see to the day. Death, mine. Driving to AA meetings. I was carrying a paddle to an institution, driving to an AA meeting to speak on the freeway system in Southern California. I'd look at those concrete abutments coming up thinking, just one little, and I don't have to deal with this bullshit anymore. It's over. So there I am, sober, staunch, responsible member of AA, dying on the inside, and on the outside, I'm fine. I'm just fine. Ask me and I'm fine. It's okay not to be fine. It is fact normal not to be fine. It is human to be visibly upset over loss, gain, pain, the illusion of separation. That's normal. See? But I lived under the delusion that peace of mind was feeling nothing. Okay? Last night, I had a real emotional, I'm getting prepared to move from Southern California. I'm moving to New Mexico, and it's time for me to, I'm dropping out. I can't take one more day in Los Angeles. Anyhow, there's a little meeting that I attend in Los Angeles. It's just a little group of us who are supportive of each other, who get together once a week. There's 9 of us, because we are all into the same things. We are all non-smokers. We are all highly conscious nutritionally. We're all into running and cycling and in therapy, and all of us are adult children of alcoholics. And so we have formed this little unit of 9 people who we just kind of support each other. So here I am, almost 24 years sober, 50 years of age last night, and I just cried and sobbed and cried and sobbed because we were having a meeting to say goodbye. See, I'm convinced until you end things, you're going to carry them with you everywhere you go. And I had to go around this room from person to person. And I had to look at guys I've watched get sober, and I've watched them go through all this stuff in 3 years instead of 20 years. And the guys that I get out and ride bicycles with, and we talk about God and love and feeling clean and being healthy and being alive, and the advantage of aerobic exercise if you're nuts, how you can burn some of the demons out, by exercising. When your eyes fog over and you can't read the book, And I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed last night. It broke my heart to have to say goodbye to these people. But I'm going where I have to go, and I'm doing what I have to do. And that's the joy of being alive, and joyous, happy, and free. But I know friends of mine, if they saw me, acquaintances of mine, if they saw me, would have said something's wrong. My God, look at him. Sober that long and sobbing like that? Oh, Christ. We should get him help. I'm fine, thank you very much. I'm doing just great. I'm saying goodbye to people I love. Closing doors that must be closed so I can go on free to whatever it is the next adventure is going to be. Anyhow, I hit 5 years in AA, and I have not had a good time. 5 years seems to be a crisis time. My humble opinion based on observations of a lot of years. And going to an awful lot of meetings and seeing very few birthday cakes for 6, 7, and 8. So I'm assuming 5 years is a problem. It seems to me that one thing that I became confronted with, particularly at the 5-year point in recovery, forget all the emotional stuff and all the adult child issues, it seems that at one point for me I had to come to grips with either there is a God or there isn't a God. Either this God is all-powerful, all-loving, ever-present, or he does not exist. And if this God is all-powerful, all-loving, and ever-present, what am I worried about? Why am I so nuts with anxiety? If somebody said, what's your drug of choice in recovery, Robert? I'd say anxiety, of course. I pick it up in the morning and have, 4 gallons of it before I get out of the bedroom. I go ride a roller coaster now if I get too much anxiety going. Man, that'll clean it out of me. It's like, I wait in line and get the first seat in the first car. It gets me all the time. It's like, my kid loves it, you know, but the adult goes absolutely right over the edge, you know. Gets it out, you know, and then I can go be a human being again. So at 5 years of sobriety, out of absolute, total, complete desperation, I decided that there was a God. That he was all-powerful, all-loving, and ever-present, and I said, this is it. I'm yours. I'd been afraid to say that for fear that he kept score. And that intellectually I knew we weren't even. And surrendering was really a big mistake. I went to work the next day and broke my back in 2 places. And in the emergency hospital, my mind said to me, see? I've been telling you for 5 years, letting go would be the dumbest thing you could ever do. You let go, and he broke your back. And another voice from down here, a little voice, screamed at my mind. It said, shut up! Now I found myself in the position of a moderator. Right? I got voices here, and I got a voice here now, right? And I'm like, now I got to decide which one to listen to. So having listened to this one for years, and living in the results of its intellectual operation in my life, it was all complete disaster, I decided to listen to this little voice. I decided that maybe breaking my back wasn't a bad deal. See, throughout my recovery, every time I thought that this is the worst, bleakest, darkest single moment of my life, it pops into the miracle and things change. That's as long as I keep showing up. Always, always pops into the miracle. Yet, because I'm insecure and because I have no self-esteem, I have to categorize everything as good or bad. I don't know about gray. I live in black and whites. I live in extremes. I don't know that there's a middle, see? So when something happens in my life, I've got to my need is to make an immediate determination. If it's good or it's bad. And my mind is always wrong. Okay? 24 years, it's never been right in recovery yet. The intuition, the child, has always been right. It's always been perfect. It's just that I refuse to listen. The intuition will say, we need to go, like I'm moving to a place that is not my intellectual choice. I'm moving to Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's not my intellectual choice. I don't want to go there. Okay? But on this level, I'm being pulled very quietly, very peacefully, and very steadily there. And everything I need is being provided. Bang, 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 bang. See? Thank God today I can go with the road signs. You know? I can be spontaneous. I can go where my mind doesn't want to go. If you're like me, your mind will not support you in any new adventure. It just won't. It'll say, no, no. All it knows is no. No, no. No. You'll fail. I know you're miserable and unhappy and so under stress at work that you're throwing up in your desk drawer and that they've offered you a new position in Hawaii that you would really love to take but you can't go. Stay here. It's familiar. It's safe. You know what to say, how to behave, and you're not confronted with anything new. So I decided maybe breaking my back was a good deal. I didn't know. I had no idea. And it turned out to be a good deal. 6 months later, I wound up being a writer for television. There's no logical reason for me to be a writer. It's hysterical. It's still hysterical. I'm so grateful for the advent of computers and word processors, I can't tell you, because they spell. See, I can't spell. And they spell. I mean, it's really a trip. You know, the son of a bitch spells. I'm impressed, you know. I get all done writing something, throw this dictionary in that sucker, and it goes through, reads it, and tells me what's wrong, you know. I'm like, wow, what do you think of that, you know? I'm just really stoked by that.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
Because if you're a phonetic speller, you can't even find words in a dictionary. You can't, so that's always great. Supporting people always say, well, look it up. Well, if you think character spelled with a K, you're in a lot of trouble, okay? And if you can't hear the H, you're in a lot of trouble. You got to start with a ruler at the beginning of the letter in the alphabet and just go until you find the word, So anyhow, I became a writer. In 1971, I met a lady in the program who I adored. We dated for a couple of years, and in 1973, we got married. In January and in February, we found out she had cancer, and in April, she died. At the moment she discovered that she had cancer, she refused all forms of toxic treatment. And she made me promise that if she should slip out of consciousness, that I would not submit her to any toxic treatment of any kind, under any circumstances. In essence, she was saying, if the treatment will kill me, I don't want it. Particularly back then. So we were forced to seek people in places that treated it non-toxically. We were both heavy meat eaters and serious heavyweight smokers. And every one of these people that we came in contact with in this country and others, the very first two things that they absolutely wanted out of her life were red meats and cigarettes. So after she passed away, I was sitting in a restaurant one night, and I was eating a steak, which is, I loved. It was like that was all I knew how to eat. And I looked at it, and I thought about everything I'd heard over the preceding 4 months, and I said, I don't need to eat this anymore. And I gave it up. And a couple months later, I gave up coffee. I'd love to say caffeine, but I really just gave up coffee. I got sneaky is what I did. I gave up coffee and made a left turn to Diet Cola. I thought everybody drank 18 cans of Tab a day. I didn't know that people didn't get up in the morning and have a can of Tab and a cigarette, Everybody had a bowl of Rice Krispies and a can of Tab, for Christ's sake, I had no idea, I was fine with it because it didn't, wire me like coffee. Then a couple of years later, no, that was a couple of months later. Then I kind of bopped along for a while, and, oh, God, being this person that I had created, because I wasn't okay, that's, oh, God, I just got nuts when I think about it. Just that terrible feeling when you just sit there anywhere and you know you're not okay. You just, oh, you're not okay. I'm not okay. I just knew I wasn't okay. And I never understood why I wasn't okay. I was a writer for, well, I'm still a writer, but all the time I was writing in the studios, I never had fun. I never had fun. And my God, you think somebody, ensconced in a motion picture studio, for Christ's sakes, with stars and car crashes and special effects and fake this and funny that and just everything, would be delighted. If I had been in touch with my child, I would have been running around the studio every day nuts. Hey, wow, what's that? Oh, what are you doing? Oh, that's neat. What's that? See? I would have been nuts. I would have been driving everybody else nuts, like kids do. Hey, oh, wow, that would be what I had to do. But if there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with me. And I'm not enough. I had to look good. Looking good was critical. I couldn't let you know I didn't know, because if I let you know I didn't know, then you'd know something was wrong. See? And I couldn't let you know something was wrong. So I wrote for a lot of years, but I never had fun. I never laughed. We just spent some time, a friend of mine and I, with this highly evolved person, in my opinion, spiritually. I'm talking from the mountaintop. And the thing I love about some of the people I met from India and other places who are, is that they're very silly people. They are not serious people. The first thing they know is that they don't know, right? And they giggle a lot, they're just, I want cool, I expect them to walk in flowing white robes with a serious expression and clouds behind and lightning and some sense of real power and strength, and not some giggling little guy who looks me in the eyes and puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "Don't you understand, son, that enlightenment means lighten up?" And then giggles and says, "Oh, God bless you." And if the only problem that you have and all humans on earth have is the illusion of separation, there is no separation from God, from your fellow man, from the plants, from the animals, from the air, from the water. It's an illusion. God bless you. It's not a big deal. And they'll tell you, anybody that tells you that they know and they're not still learning is lying. And that you can't fail here, because we're here only to learn. And if you're here only to learn, you cannot fail. You can't fail. God bless you. I want authority. I want what I'm used to, not these giggling, funny little people who are having a good time with life. Don't they goddamn understand how serious this is? I dare you laugh. I'm about to upheave my whole life. And you say, "Oh, it's good for you. Hee. God bless you." Well, I couldn't lighten up when I was a writer, man. I went nuts at the studios, driving in every morning knowing my parking place was going to be gone. Because they were going to find out something was wrong with me and I wasn't enough, and they were going to take it all away from me. I knew that. Absolutely guaranteed beyond the shadow of a doubt. One day I was bopping along, and about, how long am I sober now? 15 years sober, and I was researching a story on suicide. So I went down to suicide prevention. I sat in a boardroom with the people at suicide prevention. I'm in a room with, I can't remember how many, 6, 8, 10 people around this table, and I, whip out my Marlboros and my gold electric butane, whatever the hell it was, special super duper deluxe lighter, kill yourself with style. Light up, take a drag and look, and there's not an ashtray in the whole room. And any smoker in a room with a half a dozen or more people and no ashtrays knows he's in unfriendly territory. Otherwise, there would be ashtrays present. So somebody jumps up and says, "Oh, we'll get you an ashtray, no problem. What? Be right back," and run out. And, they practically destroy and remodel the outer office, finding an ashtray. They come back in with a platter big enough to put a fish on. Put this sucker down in front of me, and I'm supposed to look nonchalant now, right? So the then head of suicide prevention says to me, "We have an official opinion on cigarette smoking if you're interested in it." This little guy down here says, "Yeah, what is it?" Before my mind could get in there and say, no, thank you. We have all the information we need on cigarette smoking. My mind don't want any new information because my mind requires absolute control over 3 things: me, you, and the environment. The rest it'll leave to God. So I wasn't thrilled when this guy looked my mind dead in the eyes and said, "As long as all the scientific proof is now in, and it is fact, no longer theory, that cigarette smoking of and by itself will take your life, we view cigarette smoking to be covert suicide. We see it to be a little tiny gun with a little tiny bullet." Thrilled, I'd asked. Probably one of the more delightful afternoons I'd spent ever researching anything with anybody. I'd like to tell you I walked right out the door and never smoked another cigarette again as long as I live. No way. I won't give up destruction that easy. I hung in there for another 6 months. Not fun, though. Every time you light up, you hear the gun go off. Takes all the pleasure right out of them goddamn things, you know. You're buying low tar. Nicotine's just only like putting a silencer on it, you know. So I gave up cigarettes. Ran into small problem. First attitude, I expressed some feelings I've been sitting on for 30 years. You must be aware of that when you stop smoking. Feelings will come up. It's okay. That's when George comes home after the third day of not smoking and walks in his living room and says to Myrtle, "I hate that goddamn green couch." And Myrtle says, "But George, that green couch has been there for 20 years. George says, "I know, and I've hated it for 20 years. But instead of saying anything before, George would just have a cigarette. Because he also probably thought something was wrong with him and he wasn't enough. And if you believe that, you won't rock the boat. You will not rock the boat. You won't risk the anger of another human being with your feelings. Because your feelings don't count. So you keep them down. Now, the problem that arose besides attitude when I quit smoking was I did not know that they cured tobacco in the United States in sugar. My body had now lost a major source of sugar. And it wanted more. It wanted sugar like the Cookie Monster on Sesame Street wants cookies. It would kill to get sugar. I treated my sugar just like my drug addiction and my alcoholism. I'd be sitting in my condominium in Montecito on a quiet evening, 10 minutes to 11 at night, saying, "There's no sugar in the house, and I don't need any. I, like any other normal human being, can go peacefully to bed, have a good night's sleep, and not have to have ice cream. It's nice to know that I don't have a problem with the sugar." At 5 minutes to 11, I'd leap up, run out of the house, jump in the car, do 100 miles an hour down San Ynez Road, to 31 Flavors. I would slide to a stop in front of 31 Flavors, get out of my car, run into 31 Flavors, right through the door as the guy's coming with the keys, get my quart of pralines and cream, my jar of butterscotch topping, my jar of dry roasted cashew peanuts, and go home and make a sundae. I'd get a mixing bowl too, no goddamn, no cereal bowl. And the marriage I was in was on the rocks, and she wouldn't die, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So by the time I ate the sundae, the whole thing, I would just pass quietly into a sugar coma. And I didn't have to deal with anybody. You know, fall asleep 5 minutes into the 11 o'clock news. I'm gone. Everything's okay. I want to tell you, I don't care what step you're working. If you're in a sugar coma, it won't matter. Not a bit. Another problem if you eat a lot of sugar is you put on weight. I got big. About 50 pounds bigger than I am now, and it all seemed to settle in one area for some reason. I don't remember how big the last pants I bought were, but I know one thing, they were big, and the day after I bought them, I couldn't get them fastened. And for some reason, that was like the little straw. I don't know why. And I looked at myself standing there in those unbuttoned pants, and I said, well, this is it. These are the biggest pants you're ever going to own as long as you live. So you can do anything you want to do, eat anything you want to eat, go anywhere you want to go, but you ain't going to get any bigger pants as long as you live. So if you want to spend the rest of your life wearing Hawaiian shirts out, you know, in the winter because you can't get your pants fastened, it's okay. So a friend said to me, "Sugar, you eat a red delicious apple." I said, "I'll try anything because my pants don't fit." I'd like to say I gave sugar for some real spiritual reason. Pants didn't fit. God will always use your character defects to his benefit. That's the only motivation he can use. You know, he'll just sucker you right in, take your character defects and your shortcomings and move you right down the spiritual highway with them. I reached the point I wouldn't get any bigger. He says, oh, okay, now the kid will give up sugar. And I gave up sugar. You know, I went to apples, red delicious apples. After I gave up sugar, friends of mine came to me and said, now you got to start running, exercise. So I went out to run with my friends. Well, I have a couple of three problems. Is I had a bad attitude when I drank alcohol and used drugs. I was labeled psychotic, a homicidal social psychopath. And I have a lot of damage to my body. Most people came at me from behind, so I have a lot of cracked and fused vertebrae and discs that aren't where they're supposed to be, and a pelvis that was snapped in half and put back together, and bones that have been shattered by bullets. So my body isn't quite how it started out. So I don't run real straight. I have friends of mine who said to me if they spotted me a mile down the highway in a strange city, they'd know me, you know, just going down the road. So I'm running with these friends of mine, and they come to me and they say, look, man, you got problems, and what we got to do is get your feet going straight. If we can get your feet going straight in front of you, you can run further, faster, with less effort. So we want you to go see this doctor in Long Beach. He is the best sports medicine podiatrist in the world. At the time I was living in Santa Monica. I was 17 years clean and sober. I didn't eat red meats. I didn't eat sugar. I didn't smoke cigarettes. I didn't drink Diet Colas anymore. No, I still drank Diet Colas. And I was 17 years clean and sober, and I wanted to die. Just like I did when I was 5 years sober. And I surrendered to God. God had given me everything He had promised me. Everything I have ever read that God will give to a human being that entirely trusts Him with their life. From year 5 in my sobriety, God poured into my life abundantly. Money, prestige, fame, recognition, nice cars, flashy women, nice apartments, everything. I managed to destroy it all. He kept up His end. I said, it's yours. He said, great, here. And I wiped it all out. Every time I left the studio at the end of a contract, and I'm talking about a lot of money, I would be broke. I would be absolutely broke. I would own no property. My car would probably be leased, and I'd be paying exorbitant rent somewhere in a prestigious neighborhood. Also, I had a few problems with relationships, and I always found that if you give an emotionally upset woman a credit card, it'll shut her up for a while. Unfortunately, emotionally dissatisfied women shop like no other human being in the world. They can slam dunk Rodeo Drive. Which is another way of keeping myself broke. Anyway, so when I rolled into year 17, I wanted to die. And I was running. And I lived in Santa Monica, and they said, go see this doctor in Long Beach. Long Beach is 35 miles away from Santa Monica. I won't drive me 35 miles to a doctor. 35 miles is too far. I'm not worth it. I'll drive you to Long Beach. If you call me up and said, hey, there's this great sports medicine podiatrist I got to see to get my feet fixed, he's in Long Beach, would you pick me up and take me? I'll say, sure. I'll pick you up and take you. Some people say, oh, that's spiritual. Give me a break. I can't take me there. So I went to this doctor in Century City who was 5 minutes away who built orthotics for me that were bad, and my back went out and an arm like this. And I'm trying to run bent over. My friends are saying to me, look, the best sports medicine chiropractors in the world are in Pasadena. They work with the Olympic team. Go there and they'll straighten you up. Pasadena is just as far as Santa Monica. I can't drive me to Pasadena. So I go to this guy in the marina who's 50 pounds overweight and smokes. I don't think he knows what running is. By the time he's done with me, I'm over like this. So finally, out of complete desperation, one more time, nothing, no accolades for this one, I drive myself to Pasadena, you know. And within 3 trips, I'm straight again. And the guys in Pasadena say, go to Long Beach and see the guy in Long Beach. And I get in the car and I drive to Long Beach and I really don't want to go. The resistance is incredible. And I get there and I'm sitting in this guy's little office, and he walks in the examining room, and he is the nicest, gentlest, most beautiful human being I have ever met in my life. He is a delight. And he walks in, I mean, there was no threat, no danger, no menace. There was nothing to substantiate this incredible resistance I felt to going. And I got there, he walks right in the room, he walks up, he picks up my right foot and looks at it and turns it a half a dozen different ways. And he said, "What happened to your foot when you were a kid?" I said, "I don't know." "Why?" He said, "It's practically a club foot. It lays on its side." I said, "Maybe I was born that way." He said, "No, this is not from birth. This is a structural change in the foot after you were born." And I got sick at my stomach. And I didn't understand why I was sick at my stomach. Oh, right. One other thing. Let me back up a minute. Just prior to my 17th birthday, when I'm sitting quietly when I surrendered in the Valley 5 years sober, I was living in a dumpy little single apartment on Sherman Way. Now it's 17 years later and I'm in a penthouse at the beach. Feelings haven't changed. I want to die. And a friend said to me, "I think you should go see a therapist." I'd always been real open-minded to therapy. And if anyone came to me I sponsored who went into therapy, I fired them. I told them, "Go get another sponsor. Obviously you need more than AA or I can give you. Go find someone who understands you or who can help you." We slam what we're afraid of. Anyhow, so I went to see this, I picked out a woman and I went to see this woman. And I sat down with her in this interview, right? We get to know each other. I picked a woman because I thought women were my problem. "I thought you guys had done it. I could find a good one of you, everything would be all right. God knows I'd looked hard enough. I used to drive the streets at 4 o'clock in the morning looking for her." I even found some. So this woman says to me, "Look, tell me a little bit about yourself." I said, "Well, when I was 15 years of age, they threw me out of Manual Arts High School, and I discovered the wonderful world of drugs and alcohol. I drank and used for 11 years, smuggled narcotics, other things, came to AA and NA 17 years ago." She said, "No, wait a minute." I said, "Tell me a little bit about yourself, starting with your childhood. You weren't born when you were 15 years old." So I don't remember anything. She said, "What do you mean you don't remember anything?" I said, "I don't remember anything. I remember 2 incidents. That's all I can remember." And she gave me this smile. And at that time, I thought the smile was self-serving, because I was self-serving. And I thought the smile meant, boy, I finally found a guy I'm going to write a paper about that's going to get me published. And I'll be famous. I had no idea at that time of knowing what the smile was. As she was saying to me with that smile, she was saying, "If you stay with me, if you stick it out, if you got the courage to walk through the pain, I'm going to introduce you to somebody you never met. You. And I'll be present when that happens. And I'll get to watch you meet your child. And I'll get to tell you how to take care of him." I had no idea that's what she saw. Anyway, I'm in therapy with her, and by the time I'm into this running situation. I go home from this doctor with the knowledge that something's wrong with my foot, and I have feelings that I don't understand. See, the mind can't tolerate feelings because the mind must have control, and feelings can't be controlled. So the mind can't stand it because feelings just come up. And sometimes the worst thing of all happens, they're inappropriate to the situation. And the mind really can't stand that because then you look silly. You know? Everybody's laughing, you're crying. You look foolish. The mind goes nuts. Haven't you ever heard your mind? I'll be walking across my living room and suddenly I'm happy for no reason. I just feel good. No reason at all. And my mind always says to me immediately, "Why are you happy?" I'll say, "Geez, I don't know." My mind will say, "Well, if you're in touch with the reality of your life, you wouldn't be happy." Or I'll be suddenly sad. Suddenly just real sad and not know why. Just sad and want to sit and cry and don't know why. And my mind will say, "Why are you sad?" And I will say, "I don't know." And my mind will say, "You work a bad program." I don't need any enemies. So I get home, I sit down, I'm nuts, I got feelings, anger, sickness, I don't know what the hell to do, and the phone rings, it's my mother. God's timing is impeccable. She just came from her foot doctor. And after she's done complaining about his not cutting her toenails straight, I said, look, as long as we're on the subject of feet, what happened to mine? I'm a typical alcoholic, raised by one alcoholic and a co-alcoholic. You know, the father was the alcoholic, mother was a co-alcoholic. And I got to tell you, if you ever want to begin this process, going back and asking questions is lethal. Lethal, particularly with a co-alcoholic who doesn't even know you're there, you know. Oh, God. So she, after about 5 minutes, she finally says to me, well, when you were little, you had very high arches. And we had to buy you special shoes. And they were very expensive shoes. And for the next couple of minutes, she repeated about 5 times how expensive these shoes were. And I hung up the phone, and I'm nuts. And I have no idea why I'm nuts. I'm just nuts. 18 years sober, over the edge, man. Want to throw up. I'm angry. I want to kill somebody. Don't know who. I'm so sad I could die. I don't understand why. I can't sleep all night. I pace all night long. The next day I go in. I walk in my therapist's office, and she says, how are you? And I go, I no longer say I'm fine. She said, well, let's go back and see what we can find. And we took a little time, and we went back, and what we found is a 2.5-year-old little boy standing in a hallway in a building in Denver, Colorado with his mother, and he's got a cute little guy with his curly little hair and his little pants on, and he's got tears streaming down his face, and he's pointing to his right foot, and he's telling his mother that the shoe is too small, and it hurts so bad he's crying. And the mother looks at this little boy, and she says, shh. Not too loud. Your father will hear, and he'll get angry. And I understood, for the first time in my life, why I thought something was wrong with me. Because if I'm not worth buying shoes for that fit, I can't be worth much. And it starts there, you know. I love what the book says, you know, about, and it gets missed by so many people in the inventory, the exact nature of the wrong. God, look it up. The guys that founded this program weren't stupid. And if anybody tells you, A is enough, just smile. Smile. It wasn't enough for Bill. It wasn't enough for Dr. Bob. They put in the book that if you need, there's fine professional people. God damn it, go seek it. You know, get the tools you need to help you with your recovery. You know? It's not instead of, it's in addition to. It's tools that Bill was in therapy from his 4th year of sobriety, for Christ's sakes. He fought smoking all of his recovery. He wanted to quit worse than anything in the world. He died of emphysema. The last 2 weeks of his life, he was with a nutritionist, looking into nutrition. I swear to God, if Bill and Dr. Bob founded AA tonight, nutrition, therapy, and exercise would be parts of this program. Guaranteed. Integral parts. The only reason they aren't is they didn't know then what we know now. That's all. They didn't know that what you eat can affect how you feel. You know? They didn't know you can go out and run 2 miles, bicycle 2 miles, swim 2 miles, walk briskly 2 miles, and burn off negative emotional energy. They didn't know any of that. Had they, we'd be doing it. So anyhow, this began the process. Now, how do you sum up all this parental stuff? Real easy. At least I finally understood why I felt like I felt, and I knew it wasn't my fault. Okay? It's best summed up. I knew a girl one time who was celebrating her first birthday in AA. Her mother, who was 4 years on the program, called her on the phone, and she said to her, look, I don't have any money to buy you a present for your first birthday, so I want to tell you something. She said, I want you to know that I, your mother, am responsible for most of the living problems you have today. I'm responsible for your inability to hold a job. I'm responsible for the lousy relationships you've had. I'm responsible for your inability to stand up for yourself. I am responsible. And she said, but on this, your first birthday in AA, also, please understand, you're responsible for the solutions. I can live with that. I can go with that one. That one's fine. That's a little better than forgiving them unconditionally without understanding why I'm the way I am. And a lot of what I'm saying may not apply to anybody here, but it's my recovery. I know better. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. I really am. I'm trying to soften up. Maybe, instead of being so, oh. But you know why I get frustrated? I get frustrated, man, because, oh, God. I don't want to die from a degenerative disease. That's why I do what I do. I'm a total vegetarian. I don't smoke, I don't drink coffee, don't eat sugar. I exercise. I take care of myself. I take good care of myself because I want to die of old age. Okay? I want to walk out on the front porch one day at 127 years of age, sit down in a rocking chair, and go to sleep. That's what I want. I don't want to die because I goddamn killed myself by not taking care of myself. And I'm watching our history. I'm watching our AA history go unnecessarily, and it breaks my goddamn heart. We got kids coming in the program today who excite me. We got a couple kids not long ago who came in the valley, and unfortunately they moved away. These guys were incredible because all this is about here is seeking. This is the beginning here, not the end. These two guys came in. They were already vegetarians. They've been vegetarians their whole goddamn life, right? They came into the program. They had been to India. They had spent years walking along the rivers with the gurus and in the caves and doing yoga. And they had been in the Himalayas with the high Tibetan monks. And they had been with the high lamas. And they had walked barefoot in the snow in the winter in Virginia Beach with Edgar Casey's people, talking to the spirits. They had been all over the goddamn globe seeking. And they came, and the only thing keeping them from assimilating the information they were getting was the heroin they were using. They came in here and we handed them a big book called The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. These are the first two guys I seen that loved it. Loved it. They were enlightened already. So they knew what was here. They read it. They hit the 12 steps when they were looking at the book, and they went nuts. They said, this is incredible. This is fantastic. This is beautiful stuff. They said, Christ, they were saying this stuff. The Essenes were saying this 2,000 years before Jesus ever got here. This is heavyweight stuff. Wow, if you do this, this is great. And so they begin to write inventories and work and, pray and meditate and accept and go. And like 6 months later, one of them walked into the clubhouse in the valley, and sitting there in the doorway in his chair where he usually is, ensconced, 33 years sober, with his cup of coffee, his pack of cigarettes, and his pound of cookies in front of him, is this guy going like crazy, right? And this kid walks in through the door, and I'm right behind him, and he looks at this guy, and he stands there for a minute, and he goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" And the guy looks up and goes, "Huh?" And the kid says, "My God, God has given you another chance at life. He has given you the highway to everything. You have another chance. It's all here for you. What are you doing to yourself?" You know what the answer was? People wonder why I get red in the face. When you're sober as long as I am, you'll understand. I don't ever want to understand. See? I don't ever want to understand. You want to ask me, what's this program about? This program is about a friend of mine who's 23 years sober who came in the same time I did. And 5.5 years ago, he walked into the doctors and they said to him, "You ain't got long. It's cancer and it's over." And Fred had already given up smoking and he'd already started running a little bit. And he decided, bullshit. He wasn't going for it. And he went all out and changed his whole life, ripped it apart, man. He started running, swimming, bicycling, became a vegetarian. He just changed his life. Last November, Fred was 23 years sober and 61 years old. You want to know where he was last November? Last November, he was over on the big island of Hawaii. He was entered in a little event called the Ironman. Okay? Supposed to be dead. He swam his 2.5 miles in the ocean, and he bicycled these 112 miles, and he ran his 26-mile marathon, and he finished in 15 hours. Now that, goddammit, to me is recovery. That's what AA is all about. That's what it's meant to be. It is a springboard. It is a foundation. It is a starting place. It isn't the end, and when you stop reaching out, you're for something to move you down the path, you're screwed. God bless you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.